Dr. Yvette Lu is here, family physician, to talk about festival safety with everything that happened at Boonstock and Penticton, and it's got parents and even teens on high alert when they're thinking about going to a 3-day festival like the one up in Squamish this weekend.
I think a lot of people who go to festivals don't even think about festival safety. We expect the organizers to take care of everything, but if we all think about it, we all plan ahead, we are aware of the hazards, we can all have a better time and we can all have good memories.
A good starting point, I guess, and we've heard sound bites from the organizers talking about the medics that will be on site, the exits are available, and just knowing the lay of the land of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. The first thing you do when you get there, you should sort of have a look at the map, figure out where the exits are, where the medical tents are, where the security tents are. So if you need to find them quickly, you know where they are. Read the rules of the festival. Different festivals have different rules.
And if you see someone in distress, should you act or should you not act? Do you go and get somebody to help, or do you jump in and help immediately?
I think it depends on how comfortable you are, right? If you feel comfortable, then, and if the situation is safe, that's really important, right? Like if someone's getting in a fight, maybe not get involved, right? Go call security. But if it's a medical problem, you have medical experience, you can go get help and send someone else to get help. Always make sure there's help on the way.
I think it's a given. You're going to a music festival, you're going to enjoy a beverage or two. Drinking responsibly is a good message, but knowing your limit. And when you're dealing with the heat, how does the heat change what your alcohol consumption limit is?
Right, exactly. So what happens is when people go to festivals, sometimes they just drink too much because they're not keeping track. So it's a good idea to maybe think ahead, know what your limits are, keep track of how many drinks you're drinking. Because actually the recommended limit for alcohol is 3 drinks per occasion. So I think a lot of people may go over that limit.
Yeah, I don't think 3 drinks per occasion is happening in the Squamish.
Sorry, your drink use consumption just fell dramatically. Or use the trick of maybe 2 bottles of water for every beverage, or something along those lines.
Yes.
And what about safety when it comes to the actual campsites? Like, what do you do if you have the scary neighbor in the tent right next to you?
Right, so that's why people usually recommend to get to know your neighbors. So before you completely set up, get to know people around you, introduce yourself, then you can sort of get an idea of whether or not it's a place you want to camp.
The buddy system really stands out to me, having gone to a festival years back. I didn't have a group of friends. There was only about a couple of us, but establishing personal boundaries is key, especially when you're doing the sleepover.
Yes, and at festivals there's an increased risk of physical and sexual assault. So alcohol and drugs lowers inhibitions, it impairs judgment. People can get into fights more easily. If your friend is going to get into a fight, try to diffuse the situation, get your friend away from the area. Especially for women, there's an increased risk of sexual assault. So you want to stay in lighted areas, stay in groups, be aware and alert of your surroundings. If someone is touching you in a way that you don't feel comfortable, you need to stop, address the situation clearly and calmly, tell them, I need my personal space. And if they don't stop, you need to get away from the situation, because you want to stop these things early, right?
Right, identify the security people and don't be afraid to actually use them. What about the idea of if something goes wrong at a music festival, maybe taking the moment to contact your family and say, it wasn't me.
Right, yeah.
Right? Stay in contact with your family.
Mm-hmm. And then actually going back to the alcohol issue, there's the issue of weather, right? Because we have the heat, you're sitting in the hot weather, drinking a lot of alcohol would dehydrate you. If you're not drinking water, that will put you at increased risk for heat illness. And we talked about heat illness a few weeks back, so if you're feeling dizzy, lightheaded, nausea, vomiting, you need to get out of the heat. Go drink water, even if it's your favorite band.
Yeah.
Go in the shade. You need to protect yourself. Put on sunscreen, because if you get a sunburn, that will increase your chance of having heat illness.
A lot of good reminders to keep in mind going into the weekend. Squamish Music Festival, Friday through Sunday. A lot of big name acts. Stay safe, have fun. Dr. Yvette Lu, thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Always good advice. We are back in a moment here with, there's the Squamish Festival Stay Safe website for you. 35,000 people heading up there, so make sure you plan accordingly. And one last point, on the way out after the Tragically It played on the Saturday night, pulled out of the parking lot, got onto the Squamish Highway, roadblock. Keep that in mind as well. Be responsible for getting behind a car.